Level 3, Cycle 2, brown stripe. For this stripe, we're going to be doing padded stick sparring. So we've covered the stick strikes, we've covered the blocks, now we're putting everything together and we're sparring with our partners. So let's go over some of the tips and techniques that we can use when we're sparring with our partners. Now when we're doing padded stick sparring, one thing to remember whenever we're starting a round is we always start with our sticks crossed. So we make an X with our sticks. And imagine if somebody was breaking these sticks, or we can do it ourselves, when we open up, we take a couple shuffle steps back. So 2 shuffles back. Now we can actually start. So essentially the same as like if we had gloves on and we were touching gloves and getting into our ready stance, it's the same thing but with sticks. So we cross the sticks. That's how we reset every time we want to do an exchange. Now from this position when we're striking, anybody can strike, anybody can block, right? So let's talk about the striking areas. On my partner, if my partner turns slightly forward, I can strike anywhere to the front of the body, just like we're doing point sparring. Don't want to go to the back or the back of the head. I can also strike anywhere to the head. I don't want to aim to the face, but I want to go around the sides, top of the head, and the forehead on the other side, just like we would with like a back knuckle in point sparring as well. One more thing I can add is below the knees. So I can also strike below, anywhere from the knee to the ankle, with my stick also. So an extra area of range of where we can strike. Now when we're in our sparring stance for stick sparring, we're going to be slightly more square than we would be for point sparring here. So a little bit more square. And whatever hand is holding the stick, most of us will hold it with our right hand. Whatever hand is holding the stick, that leg is always going to be in front. So if for some reason you decide to switch hands, you would switch your feet as well. Okay? When I'm throwing my strikes, and let's say my partner happens to block something, so if my partner happens to block here, now I don't have to just stop right here. I can always use another strike to follow up afterwards. So for some reason, oh, this didn't work, you blocked it, I can use something else. The key is I want to be able to connect. I want to get my point. I want to be able to score. So speaking of scoring, let's talk about different point areas. Now, if I'm striking to the body with my stick, these are all going to be considered 1 point. If I strike, well, there's one more range as well, the stick arm. If I strike to the stick arm, that's going to be considered 2 points. So this stick arm is the arm that's holding the stick. If I'm striking to the other arm, this does not count. It just has to be the stick arm here. If I'm striking to the head, that's going to be considered 2 points. And if I'm striking to the leg, that's going to be considered 1 point. Now, speaking of this free hand, as being on the defense, as the blocker, so I'll talk about my free hand. If my partner is going to be striking me, I really want to avoid using this hand to block. Sometimes our natural tendency, a reaction is to use this hand. But we've learned our blocks for a reason. We want to use that stick to protect ourselves. So use the stick, use the free hand to brace your stick rather than just trying to use that free hand. A, it's incorrect technique, and B, it's for your own safety as well, right? So we want to use this. Now, if for some reason your opponent's stick falls out of their hand, whether it was by their own doing or maybe you strike their arm and they drop their stick, guess what? You get a point for that. But there's only one opportunity for that to happen. If it happens a second time by the same person, he drops his stick again, I automatically win the match, regardless of how many points we had previous to this. So it's really important when you're doing your stick sparring, hang on to that stick. Keep a good solid grip of it no matter what. If you're very loose with that stick, it could end up resulting in you losing that match just because of that. Another thing I want to add when you're doing the point stick sparring is watching this wrist direction here and this wrist tension. So we want to keep our wrist bent and keep tension with our stick. A lot of times a bad habit, maybe we start reaching for our partners and it turns out into a wand kind of positioning. We want to avoid this at all costs. Now, the way that we're going to avoid that is by using our feet, getting good footwork in. So instead of me reaching this way to try to hit my partner, I have to use my feet to get myself in order to strike where I want to strike. Even to the leg as well. I can reach like this to try to tap, but in order to have proper technique and proper power, I step in order to make sure that I keep that tension in my wrist and have proper form when I'm throwing those strikes. All right, stick sparring, it's a ton of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do as instructors on the mat. Keep a nice strong grip on that stick, and we'll see you on the mat.